Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Choice Evidence 1983, and their tagline is, "It dawned on me that he was a wizard." The original OP is Eric Sanderson, posted to r/badroommates August 14th, 2025. Roommate moved her possibly homeless boyfriend into the house. My, male, longtime friend, female, and I have been renting a house together for 2 months now. We're both on the lease, but I pay the deposit, move-in costs, and pay roughly 75% of all living expenses. Yes, I know this is dumb. My friend doesn't make much money and was in a bad situation, and she couldn't live here without being on the lease. We've lived together for almost 3 years, and it's been fantastic. I had moved to a new city, and she knew lots of people and has helped me establish a social life. I had no problem with the arrangement. Until now. She recently, suddenly, and tragically lost her dog, who was like a child to her, and has been spiraling ever since. Drunk all the time, starting fights and hurling insults, etc. We had basically stopped talking when, about a month ago, she met some random guy. I don't know much about him, but what I've seen isn't great. 2 weeks ago, she got a DUI, and this guy bailed her out. The next day, he came back to the house with her and spent much of the day. He then started coming here every day, taking up the living room, walking around with no shirt on, etc. I avoided them as much as I could, and we never exchanged words. The guy gives me the creeps. He's large, maybe 6'4", and on the heavier side. And his vibe is just, I don't know, off. 6 days ago, the guy spent the night here. Then he stayed over the next night. Then the next night. The following morning, I told my roommate that it's not cool to be taking up the house and having her boyfriend stay over for long stretches. I told her he made me uncomfortable. And she basically said it's her boyfriend in her house and she can do what she wanted. On the 5th morning, yesterday, I saw that he had toiletries in our bathroom. I told my roommate it seemed like her boyfriend is attempting to stay here long term, and pointed out that our lease has limits on guests staying over 14 nights in a 6-month period. This is where things changed, and where I need advice. My roommate has now started to say things like, "I feel threatened," and "I feel unsafe," and "I need my boyfriend here for protection." There's no truth to them at all. I've been leaving the house every evening after work and only coming home around 11 or 12, and I completely avoid all contact with both of them. The only contact we've ever had was one evening when I came home around 11, and they were smoking weed on our front porch. He was once again basically in his underwear and asked him to please wear clothes when he's in the common areas of the house. That's all I've ever said to him. It seems like she's using this as some kind of legal/defense strategy and planning to tell our agent and owners that I'm some kind of danger to her and she needs her boyfriend here for protection when they tell her he needs to go. Yesterday, her boyfriend showed up at 4 p.m. while I was still working from home and spent the rest of the day and night here. He's literally waking up, going to work, and coming back to our home. He's living here. So, I got curious. Last night when I got home, I looked through the windows into his SUV. It's filled. I mean, filled with clothes and hangers. It looks exactly like a car that someone is living out of. Maybe I'm being crazy, but it seems like this dude is homeless and is manipulating my roommate into moving into our house. Her shift in language, all the talk about threats and protection, isn't like her, and it's completely divorced from reality. It seems like she's being coached. I've spoken with our agent, who I'm friendly with, and she's aware of the situation. She's seen the guy's car here every day and will be messaging my roommate about the guest rules today. My concern is that my roommate is going to start lying and accusing me of making her feel unsafe, telling the agent that she needs her boyfriend here for protection. I'm not super concerned that it's going to work, but I am concerned that the agent and owners are going to look at the situation and decide it's not worth it and just cancel the lease. I really like this house and don't want to have to move. I've already changed the Wi-Fi password, I pay all utilities, and locked up all of possessions, which include plates, cookware, and all silverware. I'm just out of options at this point and wondering if anyone has been in a similar situation. Edit. I should mention that the agent is basically our landlord. It's a direct home rental from the owners, and she is the middleman who handles all renter issues. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'd immediately demand the rent split go back to 50-50 at the very least if he's going to stay there. You're literally subsidizing housing for 2 people. They can't make their half of the rent between the 2 of them? OP responds, I did. I sent her an email when we first stopped talking explaining that she's going to be responsible for 50%. I attached all of our utility bills and gave her a total due on the 1st. She's made it clear she's not going to pay it, but I have documentation. I could take her to small claims court eventually, but for now, I'm worried about getting this guy out. Commenter 2. You need to tell your roommate that it's time for her to move along. This has gone past the point where you could repair the situation without kicking her out. I would also tell her the guy needs to be gone immediately, or you will get the police involved. Ignore her arguments. You are the one that doesn't feel safe, and that's all the justification you need. Let your landlord know that you would like to stay on and are looking for a new roommate. You are risking losing the place, but that's a risk if you don't do anything as well. Chances are, if you've been a good tenant, your landlord will work with you to get your roommate out and allow you to keep living there. Opie responds, I've told her to leave numerous times. She refuses. She says she's on the lease and this is her house. The landlord is going to have to force her out, or I'm going to have to break the lease, which I don't want to do. The guy is still technically not violating the law. She's inviting him here. Can't call the cops. Plus, police activity at the home will basically guarantee that I'm getting kicked out too. Commenter 3. You need to tell the landlord now. Do not let this guy get tenant rights because then all of you will go through eviction. Not to mention him being over can potentially mean you're violating the lease and get you evicted. Stop paying her fucking share. Get a backbone. Enough. You need to document everything. If you're in a one-party consent state, always have your phone to record. OP responds, It's 2-party consent here, unfortunately. I'm documenting everything through text, but now she's saying that the texts are harassment. I informed her the payment arrangement has changed and she's responsible for 50% moving forward. I emailed her the bills and an invoice. She won't pay it, but I could eventually take her to small claims if I wanted. Commenter 4. I don't think the guy can get tenants' rights unless he were to start having mail delivered in his name to that address, which I suppose is a real possibility given how selfish and deranged OP's roommate sounds. OP responds, Even then he's a long way from having rights. Tenant law in Florida is heavily weighted towards landlords. OP on if they should break the lease and look for a new place if it's possible. OP responds, It took me a long time to find this house and I've only been in it for 2 months. I dropped $6,000 to move in and will lose a ton by breaking the lease. I don't have another $6,000 to move to a new house, so I'd be looking at voluntarily losing thousands of dollars just to move from a nice home into a shitty apartment. That's my last resort at this point. Can OP reach out to his roommate's family or friends regarding her well-being? OP responds, I wish. She has no family and has alienated her other close friends already. This guy is basically all she has now. OP's state and the tenant's rules on guests staying overnight. Florida. The landlord filled me in. The 14-day and 6 months restriction is designed for that scenario. Update. October 14th, 2025, 2 months later. Condensed version, I, male, have lived with a longtime friend, female, for about 3 years, after moving to a new city. I paid most of the bills to help her out, and in turn, she introduced me to a ton of new people and helped me build a social life. It was great. This summer, we moved from an apartment to a direct home rental. Just as we were moving, her dog died unexpectedly and tragically, and it broke her. She started seeing this weird guy, and shortly thereafter got a DUI. He bailed her out, and suddenly started basically living at her house. He had a toothbrush in the bathroom, clothes in the house, etc. He'd be here with her from 3 p.m. on. Stay over, shower here, leave in the morning, and come right back. They also trashed the kitchen and bathroom on a daily basis, forcing me to clean up after them just to be able to cook and shower. I was begging her to stop, but she refused, and our relationship collapsed. Things became extremely antagonistic. Our landlord, who lives next door, repeatedly reminded her that our lease prohibits guests from staying over more than 14 times in a 6-month period. My roommate started lying, saying that she didn't feel safe around me and needed him here for protection. Then I noticed his car was filled with clothes, dozens and dozens of hangers with shirts, pants, shoes, etc. And it became clear he was never actually going to another home. He was just living here, Unfortunately, we never had a signed rental agreement between us, so I was stuck paying 75% of the bills while she and her boyfriend basically took over the house. She made it clear she was not going to leave or break the lease. She knew neither of them could get a place on their own, and I didn't know what to do. I changed the Wi-Fi password, locked up all the pots, pans, dishes, they were all mine, hid all of my laundry detergent and dryer sheets, etc. They had no TV, no internet, and were using a cheap $3 sauté pan and paper plates to cook with. But they kept on living here. Luckily, I've been friends with our landlord since we moved in, and she was just as upset with him living at the house as I was. So she sent my roommate a formal notification that if the boyfriend stayed over beyond 14 days, they would evict us. My roommate said she understood and that he would be gone after the 14th day. But sure enough, on day 15, he was right back at the house. We had a confrontation, which I filmed, and her boyfriend charged at me and tried to attack me, but my roommate held him back. I was actually kind of hoping he would hit me so I could get the cops involved, but he just stormed out and slammed our door. I spoke with a cop friend and she told me it unfortunately wasn't enough to seek a protection order. After that, he stopped staying over, but continued to basically live at our house, arriving around 3 p.m. and leaving at 11 or 12. I was miserable and basically just accepted the fact that this would be my life until the lease ended next summer. But 2 weeks ago, I finally caught a break. She fucked up and had her boyfriend stay over again. I documented it and sent proof to the landlord, and she texted me back saying, "Woohoo! You're free!" An hour later, she sent both of us a notice of eviction, instructing us that we both had to be out by the end of October. My roommate and I happened to be at the same sports bar, a huge multi-story place with dozens of mutual friends, when the notice came in. And she came upstairs screaming at me, cursing me off and telling everyone that I had gotten us evicted because I went whining to the landlord. She and her boyfriend left and went to the landlord's house, freaking out and saying that she's gonna be homeless and won't be able to rent a place with an eviction on her record. She actually tried to convince the landlord to just evict me and let her boyfriend move in instead, saying that I was the one causing all the problems. The landlord said no dice, but told her she could avoid the eviction if she agrees to break the lease, move out at the end of the month, and didn't have her boyfriend over at all in the meantime. If he showed up, the landlord said she would immediately send a 7-day eviction notice and we'd be out within a week. After that, my roommate and her boyfriend basically disappeared. I think at first she might have thought that if they stayed away for a bit, things might cool down and he could start coming to the house again. But at some point, something must have changed. Either they realized there was no path forward or they found someone else to stay with. I don't really know. But about a week ago, they came to the house and started packing up some of her stuff from the garage. And yesterday, my landlord said my roommate had agreed to break the lease at the end of the month. I just signed a new lease today and will officially have my home back on November 1st. Not sure what the lesson is? Definitely be cool with your landlord and always sign a separate rental agreement with your roommates before you enter into a lease together. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. This was a longtime friend or just 3 years. It's really sad that the friendship just went to shit. Did you ever have like a heart-to-heart before things got as bad as they did to see why the sudden changes and how she was treating you? I know it sucks losing a pet, but throwing away a long-term friendship over it is odd. Opie responds, "We've been friends for many years. We had one period after moving in where we had a heart-to-heart and she agreed to start being more respectful. It lasted for 2 days. It may have started with her dog, but it became all about the boyfriend. It's one of those high school codependent us against the world kind of relationships. She lost her license, so she spends literally every free minute of every single day with him. She's now extremely self-centered, mean, disrespectful, and completely lost to the world. It's really sad, but she's not the girl I knew anymore." Commenter 2. "Drugs. She's on drugs." OP responds, "Just weed and booze, but they're the kind of people who give weed a bad name, full-on space cadets." OP on his friend and her boyfriend's behavior and ages. OP, "Not really. It's just me saying we're going to get evicted and he needs to leave over and over again while they act like teenagers. They're in their mid-30s. No joke, it really seemed like he was trying to establish residency here. When he met my landlord for the first time, he actually hugged her. and put on the most obvious fake charm act imaginable. She called me afterwards and was like, "Does he think I'm stupid? He really thought I'd buy that? He's so weird." Both of them thought they could hug their way into taking over the lease. Commenter 3. They're getting out. Now have your landlord change the locks the minute the end of the month happens. Your friend, did you wrong in so many ways. Sorry, I know how it feels. Opie responds, "Thanks for saying that, honestly. I know I'm making light of it, but the past 2 months have been hell." He was 100% coaching her on what to say, and definitely convincing her of some kind of fairy tale of, "We can definitely get him evicted," or "We can definitely establish residency," or "We don't have to pay that extra 25%. Just a bunch of additional things. Say that he's threatening you, which is why I have to be here, to make sure you're safe. Stuff like that, pretty much. And also, just additionally, which this popped in my head at the time, if they did get OP evicted, how the fuck were they gonna jump from paying 25% to 100% if they couldn't even handle a 25% increase from the get-go, huh? Where's the logic at there? I also do wish we could have gotten more information on how the friends reacted to essentially the ex-roommate claiming that OP was responsible for the eviction when they were the ones clearly breaking the rules and had been informed multiple times. Not to mention their landlord was the neighbor, so all she had to do was just walk outside at 3 a.m. and see if the car was still there, and there we go. The logic those two were using was just entirely built within an echo chamber between the two of them, and my guess would be they talked themselves up between each other in fictional scenarios and thought they had some kind of foolproof plan to ensure that they could definitely sneak things under the landlord's nose or manage to figure out a way to work around or work through OP and his unreasonable request to not break the terms of the lease. Part of me wonders that if they did find someone else to move in with, if they sold them some kind of sob story, like it was a mutual friend between OP and the ex-roommate who was also there at the bar who saw the whole confrontation happen, where they offered to let the ex-roommate and their boyfriend move in. And now they're in for kind of a shocking surprise when they don't get their kitchen clean, the bathroom's gonna be a mess, and everything's gonna be kind of just messy as hell. And they're gonna just slowly see the insanity that OP had to deal with, and unfortunately, it'll be a bit too late. That's at least my theory as to why they're so quickly moving out somewhere, is that they managed to sell their sob story to someone, and they're just gonna kind of bounce around for a bit. This post was collected by Lucy Aria Rose, and their tagline is, "I'm keeping the garlic." The original OP is Nestor Prime. Posted to r/entitled people, October 9th, 2025. A while back, I started a company with someone I considered a friend. We agreed to work and invest together, but halfway through, they completely backed out. No money, no effort, no input at all. I decided to push on alone, almost 3 years, and eventually managed to stabilize the company after years of hard work. Now that things are finally going well, this person suddenly reached out, demanding a share of the profits, saying, "Give me my money." Their reasoning? They claim they shared the idea too, and have something to do with my success. It's frustrating because they weren't there during the struggle, didn't invest a single coin, and now expect a payout because the business idea once came up in conversation. Some people really do vanish when it's time to build, then show up only when it's time to collect. Too long didn't read. Former business partner quit halfway through, contributed nothing, and now wants a share of my company's profits because they claim they had the idea too. Some of OP's comments. Commenter, any contractual agreements between the two of you? Did they own any shares in the business? If not, then they have as much claim to the fruits of you spending 3 years turning an idea into a success as I do. OP responds, there are no contractual agreements, nor do they own any shares. Commenter, write a more detailed summary of what you know about their involvement, including dates and a rough timeline. If you have their emails or correspondence to include, all the better. Cover yourself and then block and ignore. OP responds, which honestly, in addition, I wonder if that commenter was actually an AI prompt catch. OP responds, nothing was on mail or any digital or paperwork. All of it was done verbally as friends who wanted to start something. OP adds, no, nothing, even on call or WhatsApp chats. Commenter, you built a business over 3 years. You say partner quit halfway. But then, comments say they were never part of the business, never invested time or money, just discussed a business idea one time. OP responds, halfway the planning stage of starting the business. We shared the idea, but he doubted it halfway and pulled out. I made the pitch to potential clients and also invested in it, but they didn't. Commenter. OP, if you care at all about your company / it's worth anything to you, do yourself a favor and take the time / money to consult an actual lawyer who has all the facts. On its face, your case seems pretty cut and clear, but I already see a potential avenue where your former business partner might try to claim something. AKA, if you used any of his derivative work, there's a tiny crack that they might actually be able to worm their way in. I'm not a lawyer, but years ago, I preventatively consulted my startup lawyer when my former business partner departed on good terms. Be careful, OP. OP responds, thank you. I never used his derivative work. Took what we talked about and modified it and executed it. It's not even the original one. Okay, I hate to be that guy, but you can't just say, I didn't derive anything from his work. I just took the idea and modified it. That's what derived means. Commenter. Please tell me your business. I hope it's as common as fast food restaurants or roofing company. I want to know how original is the business idea. OP responds, it's nowhere near that. It's a cybersecurity and data recovery firm. As long as there's not some kind of proprietary formula or intellectual property involved, then OP should be in the clear. Commenter. Just say, you're absolutely right. You absolutely deserve a share based on the amount of investment you made early on. Why don't you bring the receipts that demonstrates how much you invested in this company and we'll work it out? OP respond, I might need a restraining order and desist from a lawyer to avoid any violent behavior after this. Commenter. It may be worthwhile to consult with a lawyer for actual advice that follows your local or state laws. OP responds, there may be a twist of events that require the law involvement. October 10th. Comment. Commenter. As others have said, consult with a lawyer, but it doesn't sound like you have anything to worry about. What a piece of shit. OP responds, already did the first thing today. Meetup is in 3 hours' time. Update post. October 15th, 2025, 6 days from the original post. So, a while ago, I posted about a former partner who backed out halfway through building of the company. Contributed nothing, and later came back demanding a share of the profits just because they had the idea too. After reading through the comments and taking some solid advice, I decided to consult a lawyer. Long story short, it turned out to be the best decision. The lawyer reviewed everything and confirmed that there was no legal or financial basis for their claim, since there was zero evidence of investment or involvement beyond that initial conversation about the idea. A restraining order was issued to prevent them from coming within 200 meters of the company premise, and I was advised not to pay them a single cent. Legally, they had no standing, just entitlement. It's unfortunate how some people feel ownership over your success when they weren't there for the grind, but this experience taught me a lot about documenting everything and keeping business separate from friendship. Thank you for your input and advice. Some of OP's comments. Commenter. Congrats! Sadly, it'll probably be the first of many attempts as you get bigger and more financially solvent. Good luck and keep pushing. OP responds, I'm sure more will come up, but anything I do from now on should have something that is legally binding outlining the scopes. Commenter. Can you go into more detail about the restraining order? I know for sure it takes a hell of a lot more than a few spoken sentences from a person saying they deserve something. There has to be more to their actions than what you've described here or in previous posts. OP responds, there were threats of attacking the business. Commenter. Did you get a reaction from that person at all when the restraining order was given to them? I'm curious what they would say, going from, I'm getting an easy payday, to, I am legally not allowed to even go near the business. OP. He was present to sign, saying I betrayed him by forwarding a minor issue. So basically, guy requests money and entitlement because he thought of an idea, jump ship from the business takes off, approaches OP about it, OP says no, threatens to attack the business, OP gets restraining order, then the guy says, whoa, wait a minute, it wasn't even that big of a deal, this is a minor issue. That sounds about right, and actually, that does sound pretty on par with how a restraining order would end up going. My guess would be is OP probably doesn't want to divulge too much information at request of their lawyer, just based upon some of the wording they're given, because to me, that is all too familiar. But the biggest takeaway from this entire kind of experience that this person went through is document everything, especially if there's a business involved, and especially if that business is dealing with friends. Make sure everything is written down on paper. Personally, I would recommend just not going into business at all with friends, because personal feelings will eventually get hurt. People will feel entitled to things they are not entitled to. And eventually, things can spiral, become messy, and leave you with broken friendships and a broken business. It's not worth it. This post was collected by Shark Ava, and their tagline is... No sex tonight. Just had 50 justice or... The original OP is Confused Throwaway 232, posted in r/am I the asshole on the 17th of October 2025. Am I the asshole because my girlfriend wants to take her ex-husband to her work Christmas party? I've, 35 male, been with my girlfriend, 44 female, for 9 months. When we met, she was open about the fact that she had fully separated from her ex and that they would be starting official divorce proceedings. Those started around 1 month ago, and it's basically in the early stages. Yesterday, we were talking about work Christmas parties, and she told me her workplace are currently running a poll where the options were go alone, go with your partner, or say you're not going. She said she needed to talk to her ex-husband about it because she was going to take him if that option won, because she didn't want to go and sit alone while everyone else was there with their spouses. Obviously, I reacted pretty badly to this. She said she couldn't bring me because nobody there knew me/us. She had started her job about 3 months before we met, and everyone there was basically under the impression that she was still married, as that's how things had been when she joined. And she didn't like lots of people knowing her business, separating, divorce, etc. So she just went along with it. She said that bringing me would therefore be weird, and she temporarily wanted everything to still look normal by bringing him. I questioned why she would need to go and pretend to essentially strangers. She could easily just go on her own instead, and she told me I didn't understand how difficult it was for her. She told me I was making it all about me by asking to be prioritized. In my eyes, it was just a consideration. That I was acting irrational and being jealous, and that she didn't have to run any of her decisions by me. She then started crying, hung up on me, and texted me to say she wanted space for a few hours, but she hasn't been in touch since, and that was 24 hours ago. I haven't reached out because I feel I haven't done anything wrong. I feel really horrible about her wanting to take him along so easily because it feels like she's not considered my feelings about it. We didn't have a conversation about it. She just told me. And so to me, it feels a little disrespectful to me in our relationship. I know we've not been together long either, so maybe I have no right to be involved in her decisions, but I would expect to at least have a convo about that because that decision does directly affect us. I also don't understand why she needs to go and pretend to people she doesn't really know and why she wouldn't have just been able to take that opportunity to explain, but I don't know if I'm just being selfish, like she said. Am I the asshole? I've never been married, so I don't know if I've just majorly downplayed everything and been inconsiderate. Honestly, appreciate everyone's advice and opinions. Comments. T. Lucas 73. Not the asshole. My advice is run. She's not over her soon-to-be ex-husband. All she's worried about is how she looks to others. Partners in relationships consider each other's feelings. From the sound of it, she doesn't really care about you. You are her dirty little secret. The fact that her divorce didn't start until 8 months after you started a relationship is proof. From outside looking in, she was trying to have you and her ex-husband at the same time, or holding on to her ex-husband just in case it didn't work out with you. If your gut is telling you to cut all contact and that what's going on is wrong, please listen to it. Glumcraft 4652. I see you. You're usually a best of contributor. $50 she's still banging her ex-husband. Farsauce 15. $50 she was probably cheating on her husband and OP was, or maybe still is, her side piece. Nicole Harris 3. Not the asshole. This is a major red flag. You're worried about reacting badly, but the real problem is that 9 months into a relationship, she is actively choosing to prioritize the appearance of an intact marriage over publicly acknowledging her actual relationship with you. She isn't worried about people knowing her business. She's worried about admitting she's moved on before the divorce is final, which suggests she is keeping open the option of reconciliation. The excuse that it would be weird to bring you but normal to bring the man she's divorcing is absurd and deeply disrespectful to you. Demand honesty and transparency or walk away because right now, you are her secret, and the ex is her preferred public face. Opie responds, I read this over and over again because it articulates and validates so much of my thinking. That whole thing about actively prioritizing an appearance of an intact marriage is what felt so ironic and also uncomfortable when she told me I was being selfish for demanding, which I wasn't, to be prioritized. Thank you for this comment. User Capital Thought comments, if she only just started this job, how do her coworkers know her husband? So she feels the need to bring him. Something's not adding up. Square Society responds, she started the job 3 months before they met and they've been dating 9 months, so she's had the job at least a year. LOL, I skimmed the story to it first and read it as she just started the job 3 months ago. Capital Thought responds, thanks, but it still means there's less than 3 months between her separating from her husband. Apparently the coworkers got to know him? To her boyfriend and then did not mention this at work for 9 months. And if she really was separating, she probably soon needs to talk to HR about it anyway, so why does she feel the need to play this charade? It does not really make sense. Moby responds, glad you brought this up because to be honest, I can't answer this either now that I think about it. From what she told me, the relationship had been dead a good year before they separated. She started the job in October, and they had separated before we began in January. So I guess maybe she talked about him in the crossover? Edited for clarity as I got confused with when she moved into her own place, which was March. Judgment, not the asshole. Update, 1 day later. Firstly, I wanted to thank everyone for their responses. I never expected to get so many, and I read all of them. Yeah, even the painful ones. There were some great pieces of advice, perspective, and wisdom, so I really appreciate everyone's comments. Second, there were a lot of repeating questions that I didn't answer in the post because it all moved way too quick. So I wanted to answer those now in case those commenters were still wondering. Who filed? And did I definitely know they were divorcing? My ex-girlfriend, oh, interesting, had always made out that she had begun proceedings. Honestly, I don't know for definite that they are, but she did have a few meetings with a lawyer when I was with her, and she'd moved into her own place in March. So to me, all the signs pointed that way, but of course, it may not have been the truth. Why would her not ex-husband agree to go? This is a solid question, and if I'm honest, from what she told me about him, I genuinely don't think he would have. One of the reasons she gave for their marriage collapsing was that he became more antisocial and introverted and stopped wanting to go anywhere and do anything with her. I think that's why it felt worse, because if she was telling the truth about him, she was willing to take someone who had previously, on multiple occasions, said he didn't want to go and do things. If I'm honest on reflection, I think that this is an example of her refusing to face reality and clinging on to her old identity. Thank you so much to the commenters who gave me this insight. She just thought he'd agree because previously he probably always begrudgingly has, and she hadn't appreciated or logically thought about the weight of what she would be asking. If it was me, I certainly would have said no, like everyone else said they would too. So, on to the update. We split up. Thanks to all the perspectives here, I text her to say that I hope she was okay and that the space had given me time to reflect on the situation. I explained that I could see things from her perspective and what her intentions might have been, but that I was hurt that she hadn't felt she could communicate that with me first, as if she had, the outcome might have been different and we could have worked something out. However, I felt her behavior in calling me selfish and not running decisions by me, etc., was disrespectful and inconsiderate. And that was now my major problem in moving forward with the relationship. She replied to say that if I was going to just bring another source of pain and stress to her life, then I may as well go, because I was still making the whole thing about me and my feelings, and not appreciating her not breaking apart at the seams while her life did. So she'd be taking more space until I decided what I wanted. Thanks to all of you, I realized how invalidating and, again, manipulative that was. So I told her we'd make the space permanent, and wished her all the best. Her response was just, okay, and asked if she could still use my Netflix password. So I changed it. Then she texted again a little while later asking why I changed it and could I put it back because it had locked her out of a show she was watching. So I had a good laugh to myself about the irony of decision making without running it by her, and didn't respond. On to better things and a definite lesson learned for the future in seeing the red flags. I also just wanted to thank the commenters who have lived and shared their experiences. It did make it easier to understand what her motivations/intentions might have been for carrying on as normal. As I said in a previous comment, she had a bad experience with a previous job and was out of work for some time in between. I also knew she was nervy about this one, as it was beginning to ramp up. I can see why she may have obfuscated the truth so that her employers didn't think she had any personal distractions, which might have stopped her from being at her sharpest. Where we live, you need 2 years to be safe from being fired, and she was only a year in. I can totally get why someone suddenly on their own with individual finances plus lawyer fees and divorce settlement, if true, fees, would not want to risk their income suddenly being shut off or being back out of work for a long period. Having said that, I also agree with everyone that there's a difference between obfuscating the truth and showing up with your ex and essentially playing pretend when there was the option of going alone and just making an excuse for them. Though I guess I can see why maybe that would feel awkward or uncomfortable being surrounded by others. End of the day, if she had come to me and explained, maybe we could have worked it out. However, she didn't, and everyone was right that her behavior and attitude towards me/the situation was incredibly disrespectful and problematic in the end. Once again, a massive thanks to the community. Comments. Undead Armware. Honestly, really glad to see you split. Like, there was just no good answer for what she was doing, and her reactions to you made it very clear that she had no business being in a relationship right now. She wants a roll of duct tape to hold her together, not a partner. User Pale Address 1929 comments, couldn't agree more. Recognizing when a situation isn't healthy is key. Stunning Response 74 comments, the audacity of her to ask for your Netflix password had me scoffing. You really dodged a bullet. She was still insisting that you were jealous, immature, and selfish. No wonder her marriage didn't last. And I bet everything that her ex was the one to ask for separation and later on divorce. Just from how she described him and the way he goes along with what she wants, leads me to believe that she pushed for him to do things he didn't want to do, just to keep up images. Foxy Sly, old Stody Fox comments, she was in the middle of a huge life change, feeling deeply vulnerable and struggling to communicate, even to herself, what her needs, feelings, and priorities were. However, she also acted like a selfish and entitled bitch, even beyond that specific situation. So maybe the work party drama just brought out her real personality. An asshole. Mammoth Historica 559 cares more about her Netflix than she does about OP. OP responds, exactly how it felt, so it's fuel to make moving on easier at least. Time Traveler 50 comments, I know, too late now, but I would have responded about changing your Netflix password was due to you speaking to your ex and they wanted to watch a show and you didn't want to make it awkward with her. OP responds, this got a good laugh out of me. So petty meets Machiavellian. That I wish I'd done. I don't really. Better to end it as the better person in my opinion. Honestly, when I first clicked on this one, I thought I would be in a position where I'd be waiting for Christmas time for some kind of update, but less than a day later, turns out, no updates required. Thankfully, it does appear that OP was at least somewhat involved in some of the separation proceedings and was very aware of where things were at. So this wasn't a situation where OP was being strung along and told that they're divorcing or in the process of a divorce when it turns out they're still actually happily together and, the usual kind of story we run into with some of these circumstances where someone's actually the other person in their life. I mean, they still are, but not in the traditional sense, I suppose. Like OP was in the awkward position where he was pretty much the second option, the fallback choice, the one where if the divorce did finally go through, he would have been the follow-up. Like, that's the impression that I'm given here with how easily she let OP walk away, with no attempt to even salvage the relationship. It seems that he was seen as a no-strings-attached side piece that could very quickly just be thrown away, because they're not married. So walking away from that relationship, hell of a lot easier than going through divorce proceedings. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.